and welcome to another Musical Home Tip of the Week. Today I'd like to talk to you about belt voice. A lot of people have been asking me questions about how do I use my belt voice, how do I get that powerful sound. I would like to warn you though, I do not exactly advocate someone using their belt voice without a trained professional guiding them. So even though I will show you what a belt voice is and explain some of the ins and outs of it, if you would like to learn how to use your belt voice, you need to seek professional assistance and have their guidance. Because using your belt voice can be, if you do it the wrong way, it can be very detrimental to your voice, to your vocal cords. So all that to say, I'm going to show you kind of what a belt voice is. But before I do, let me explain what a belt voice is. A belt voice is typically thought of as taking our middle voice, now we've talked about our high, our middle voice, and our low voice. This is taking that middle voice, the comfortable one, and pushing it up into your higher range. For me, I do not have a very large belt voice, and there are only certain instances which I use it, but I know how to use my belt voice, so I'll show it to you. I do like to also include the belt voice in the lower voice. So in other words, we have our low range, and if we push that up into what our typical middle range is, where our voice naturally switches over, if we push our lower voice up into the higher part, or higher into our middle part, then that is also a belt voice. So let me give you an example. First, I'm going to sing with my voice naturally switching over from low to middle. Listen one more time. See if you can hear the natural switch over. Right there on E. That's where my middle voice comes in. So now I'm going to show you what a belt voice would sound like. You'll notice that the switch over is a little bit higher now. It's louder, and it does create more tension within the vocal cords when you're pushing it up. So one more time with the belt voice. Okay, that's as far as I can take that lower belt voice. You'll hear this used in a lot of country music, and I've heard a lot of different stories of country singers who they are not allowed to talk because they keep going hoarse. They're not allowed to talk in between concerts and recordings because otherwise they will lose their voice. So that is because they use their belt ranges a lot and they don't really know how to use them correctly. Okay, so now let's talk about taking the middle range up into our higher range. This is our higher belt voice, which you might hear in a lot of Broadway music. So here's my middle voice, and I'm going to show you the natural break of where it would be. Okay, that was going just into my head voice naturally. I'm going to push my middle range now up into the higher range. Okay, did you see the difference? Alright, so that was really exaggerated to be able to hear the difference. But it does create a louder sound, which a lot of people want. But at the same time, it's not necessarily more powerful all the time. I like to train my students to sing with as little tension right here in the throat as possible. And to have as much power from the diaphragm, which is this area here, and you can really feel it all around here, to be able to sing those notes. So instead of using a belt voice, I recommend that you learn to use the voice that you have and make it strong. So if we have that's a good sound. It's a large sound, and you can get it from simply using the air in your diaphragm and letting it lift up your voice. That way, there's no tension here, and you've got lots of room for breathing down here. One thing that I would like to credit to Eric Arsenault. If you've seen my YouTube channel, you've noticed that I've liked several of his videos. I really like some of his techniques that he uses for showing people how to breathe from the diaphragm. One of the things that he uses is something that's very simple and very easy to do. You simply take your knee, draw it up into your chest, and breathe. And he says hold it, 15 seconds and try it on both sides. What you're going to feel is your breath naturally comes right down here when you do that. That is where your diaphragm breathing is. So if you're able to do that, then try singing using that low breath coming from down there. For guys, just to clarify a few things, some guys have asked, how can I use a belt voice and go up without going into my falsetto voice? It's the same thing. I've known several people actually who just push through and they push their middle voice up into where their falsetto should be, and after a while they're not really able to use it up there anymore. So the idea is, see if you can use your falsetto and make it as strong as possible. It is possible, by the way. If you've ever heard, there are a lot of different singers, even songs from the 50s and 60s, where you hear the ooh, or whatever. There are a lot of men who are able to use that falsetto voice. Also, if you do get training from a professional, you will also be able to use that lower voice and push it up a little bit farther through proper training. So I hope that's a little bit helpful in explaining the belt voice to you. And like I said, if you really are into learning how to use your belt voice, seek a trained professional. All right, well, good luck, and I hope it goes well for you.